In your gut, in rivers, in the soil beneath your feet, scientists found something. They call them obelisks. They're not viruses, not bacteria, not anything we've ever classified before. They have genetic material, but they don't fit anywhere in the tree of life. According to everything we know about biology, they shouldn't exist. But they do, and they've been here all along, invisible, undetected, sharing this planet with us for who knows how long. Welcome to Future Unveiled. Today we explore a discovery that challenges the very definition of life itself. Let's start with how we got here. For over a century, biologists have been mapping the tree of life, a grand diagram showing how every living thing on Earth is connected through evolution. Bacteria, archaea, plants, animals, fungi, everything has a place. Everything shares common ancestors. Everything fits into neat categories based on genetic relationships. That's how life works. Or at least, that's what we thought. Then in 2024, a researcher named Ivan Zheludev was analyzing massive genetic datasets, the kind of data that exists in public repositories from thousands of studies around the world. He was using computational tools to search for patterns, anomalies, anything unusual in the genetic noise. And he found something that made no sense. Sequences of RNA, genetic material, that didn't match anything known to science. At first, it seemed like an error, corrupt data, maybe contamination from lab equipment. But the sequences kept appearing. In human microbiomes, in freshwater ecosystems, in environmental samples from multiple continents. These weren't errors, they were real. Zheludev called them obelisks because of their rod-like RNA structure, long, linear genetic sequences folded into distinctive shapes. They're incredibly small, much tinier than viruses, and they exist in quantities we're only beginning to measure. But here's what makes them extraordinary. Their genetic code shares no ancestry with any other form of life on Earth. They're not descended from bacteria. They're not related to viruses. They didn't branch off from any known lineage. They're biologically orphaned, entities that exist without a family tree. To understand why this is so shocking, you need to understand the tree of life. Every organism we've ever studied, from the simplest bacterium to the most complex animal, shares fundamental molecular machinery. DNA or RNA, ribosomes to build proteins, lipid membranes to contain cellular structures. These are universal features because all life on Earth descended from a common ancestor billions of years ago. We're all branches of the same tree. When scientists discover a new species, they can trace its genetic lineage, find its relatives, place it somewhere on the tree. That's how biology works. Obelisks don't fit. Their RNA sequences are structured in ways that have no evolutionary precedent. They don't use the same genetic building blocks in the same ways. They don't have the proteins we associate with independent life. They don't have cell membranes. They don't have the machinery to replicate on their own, at least not in any way we understand. But they persist. They exist in living organisms, possibly interacting with host cells, possibly doing something we haven't identified yet. They're there, and they're active, but they defy classification. This isn't like discovering a new species of beetle, or even a new branch of bacteria. This is finding something that exists outside the framework we've used to define life for over a century. It's like looking at a map of the world and discovering a continent that shouldn't be there. Biologists are used to filling in gaps on the tree of life, finding missing links, identifying ancient lineages. But obelisks aren't a gap. They're something else entirely. So what are they? That's the question scientists are struggling to answer. And right now, there are three competing theories. The first is that obelisks represent an ancient, primitive form of life that predates everything else. Maybe billions of years ago, before the tree of life as we know it emerged, there were multiple experiments in molecular biology happening on early Earth. RNA-based entities competing for resources, trying different strategies for replication and survival. Most failed. But maybe obelisks are descendants of one of those ancient experiments, an evolutionary relic that somehow survived, hidden in microscopic niches, while the rest of life evolved in a different direction. If this is true, they're living fossils at the molecular level, echoes of a biological past we thought was extinct. The second theory is that obelisks represent a parallel evolutionary pathway. Instead of descending from the last universal common ancestor, the organism from which all known life emerged, obelisks evolved independently. This is called convergent evolution at the molecular level, where separate lineages develop similar structures, like wings evolving independently in birds, bats, and insects. Maybe obelisks started from completely different biochemical origins, but ended up using RNA, because it's an efficient way to store and transmit information. If this is true, it means life on Earth emerged more than once, through different mechanisms, and obelisks are proof that biology isn't a single story, but multiple overlapping experiments. The third theory is the most unsettling. Obelisks are something entirely new. Not ancient relics, not parallel evolution, but a form of existence that doesn't fit our definition of life at all. They might be quasi-life, entities that exist in the gray zone between living and non-living. Viruses already occupy this zone. They have genes, they replicate, but they need host cells to do it. Most scientists don't call viruses alive because they lack independent metabolism. Obelisks might be even stranger. They might not replicate in any conventional sense. They might not have a goal, a function, a purpose in the way we understand life. They might just be molecular structures that persist because the conditions allow it. Chemical patterns that accidentally became stable enough to endure. If this is true, then obelisks force us to ask an uncomfortable question. What is life really? And where do we draw the line? Let's talk about implications, because this discovery doesn't just matter for biology textbooks. It matters for how we search for life beyond Earth. For decades, astrobiologists have been looking for biosignatures, chemical signs of life on other planets. They look for oxygen in atmospheres, methane produced by microbes, organic molecules in soil. The assumption is that life elsewhere will resemble life here, at least at the molecular level. DNA or RNA, proteins, cells, metabolism. But what if that assumption is wrong? Obelisks suggest that biology can take forms we don't recognize. If these entities exist on Earth and went undetected for so long, what might exist on Mars, Europa, Titan, or exoplanets we've never visited? What if there are entire ecosystems of quasi-life, molecular structures that exist in conditions we thought were uninhabitable, following rules we don't understand? We could be looking at alien worlds right now, analyzing their chemistry, and missing signs of life because we're searching for something that looks familiar. Obelisks teach us humility. They remind us that biology is more creative, more flexible, more surprising than we ever imagined. Then there's the question of what they're doing. Obelisks have been found in human microbiomes, the trillions of microorganisms living in your gut, on your skin, in your mouth. Are they harmless passengers, just genetic noise floating around? Or are they interacting with our biology in ways we haven't detected? Some researchers speculate they might influence bacterial behavior, possibly regulating gene expression in microbes that share the same environment. If that's true, obelisks could be playing a role in your health without you, or science, ever knowing it. They might affect digestion, immunity, metabolism, or they might do nothing at all. We simply don't know. And that uncertainty opens the door to biotechnology. If obelisks have unique RNA structures, could we engineer them for specific purposes? Imagine using them to deliver genetic instructions to cells, like a molecular delivery system more precise than CRISPR, or using them to regulate microbial communities, controlling which bacteria thrive and which don't. Biotechnology has already harnessed viruses and bacteria. Maybe obelisks are the next frontier. But there's also risk. We don't understand how they replicate, how they spread, what activates them. Manipulating something we barely understand could have unintended consequences. History is full of cautionary tales, introducing species to ecosystems they don't belong in, creating problems we couldn't foresee. Messing with obelisks might be no different. Here's what makes this discovery so profound. For centuries, humans believed we understood the rules of life. We mapped ecosystems, sequenced genomes, traced evolutionary history. We thought the picture was mostly complete. Sure, there were gaps, unknown species, mysteries to solve, but the framework was solid. Life descended from a common ancestor. It evolved through natural selection. It followed biochemical rules we could study and predict. And then obelisks showed up and shattered that confidence. They exist inside you right now. Not hypothetically, not theoretically, literally. Fragments of RNA folded into structures we don't understand, doing things we can't explain. You are not just human cells. You are not just the bacteria in your microbiome. You are also host to these molecular enigmas, entities that don't belong to any known branch of life. And you're not alone. Every ecosystem we've tested has them. They're in rivers, soil, oceans, probably in places we haven't even looked yet. Obelisks are part of Earth's biological fabric, woven into the environment at a fundamental level. We just never noticed. This raises a philosophical question that science usually avoids. What is life? We've always defined it by characteristics: growth, reproduction, metabolism, response to stimuli, organization, homeostasis. But obelisks challenge every one of those criteria. They don't grow in any traditional sense. They might not reproduce independently. They don't metabolize. They don't respond to their environment in obvious ways. And yet, they exist in living systems. They persist across generations. They have genetic material that codes for something. Are they alive? It depends on who you ask. Some biologists say no, they're just complex molecules. Others say maybe, they're a form of life we don't have language for yet. And that ambiguity is uncomfortable because humans like categories. We like clear lines between living and non-living, organic and inorganic, us and not us. Obelisks blur those lines. Let's get practical for a moment. What happens next? Scientists are scrambling to study obelisks more closely. They're sequencing more genomes, looking for patterns, trying to figure out where these entities come from and what they do. They're testing whether obelisks can be cultured in labs, isolated, observed under controlled conditions. They're searching for proteins or molecular machines that might explain how obelisks replicate or interact with hosts. Every answer raises 10 new questions. Do obelisks have origins in ancient Earth? Or did they emerge more recently? Are they evolving, adapting, changing over time? Or are they static, molecular fossils that just happen to persist? There's also the possibility that obelisks are just the beginning. If computational analysis can find one type of unclassified genetic entity, what else is hiding in the data? How many other molecular mysteries exist in plain sight, waiting for someone to look in the right place? Biology has always been about exploring the visible, organisms you can see, culture, study in a microscope. But the invisible world, the world of genetic sequences, molecular structures, biochemical interactions, is vastly larger and far less explored. Obelisks suggest that we've barely scratched the surface. And here's the unsettling part. We've been living with obelisks for all of human history without knowing it. They were there when we built the pyramids, when we invented writing, when we walked on the moon. They were in our ancestors, in ancient animals, possibly in the earliest ecosystems billions of years ago. We just couldn't see them. Our tools weren't sophisticated enough. Our knowledge wasn't deep enough. Now we can see them, but we still don't understand them. And that raises a question. What else are we missing? What other invisible passengers share our bodies, our planet, our biosphere? What else exists that we lack the tools or concepts to detect? Let me leave you with this. The discovery of obelisks doesn't just expand the tree of life. It challenges the idea that there is only one tree. Maybe life on Earth isn't a single story with one origin and one trajectory. Maybe it's multiple stories, overlapping experiments in biology that all succeeded in different ways. Maybe we're not alone on this planet in the way we thought. Not because of aliens, but because existence is more diverse, more strange, more flexible than we ever imagined. Obelisks force us to rethink what it means to be alive. They force us to question the boundaries we've drawn between living and non-living, between complex molecules and simple organisms. And they remind us that no matter how much we think we know, the universe and biology will always surprise us. The obelisks were always here. We just didn't know how to look. And now that we do, the question isn't just what they are. It's what else we're still not seeing.